Introduction to Self-Knowledge. Lesson 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I extend my warm greetings to you all as we embark on an exploration of the profound subject of self-knowledge. In order to navigate the intricate realm of constructed reality that has intricately shaped our existence since its inception, it becomes evident that a dedicated commitment is required. Alas, the external milieu in which we find ourselves offers little assistance to those who are embarking upon the arduous task of unraveling the secrets ensconced within the privileged class's artifice. It is through the process of introspection that we may ascertain that the fundamental underpinnings of our behavior, both individually and collectively, are deeply rooted in our indoctrination and thus operate on an automatic level. To facilitate your assimilation of this information, it is imperative to grasp the cyclical nature of life. In light of this understanding, there is no need to cast blame upon those who remain oblivious to their authentic self, for these stages of experimental growth serve as necessary milestones on our personal odysseys. Now that you have accessed the knowledge that can aid in comprehending reality as a subjective phenomenon, the onus lies upon you to exercise your volition and remain steadfast on the path that leads to a profound understanding of your authentic self. It is crucial to acknowledge that the reality we perceive is but a fabrication. In the forthcoming discourse, we shall delve into the construction of reality, its underlying motivations, and its manifestations within the realm of our being. As alluded to by the title of this lecture, the purpose of these lessons is to equip you with the tools necessary to traverse a transformative process that enables you to attain self-knowledge. This objective, though simple to expound upon, carries profound implications. Your ability to be conscious of your emotional experiences and to discern that you are engaged in specific thoughts affirms the existence of dual entities within a single corporeal vessel. Firstly, there is the entity that partakes in cogitation or experiences emotions. Secondly, there is the entity that comprehends or apprehends the presence of the aforementioned cognitive and emotional experiences. Through the process of indoctrination, thinking becomes an impediment to realizing the faculty of choice in identifying with the aspect of ourselves that is cognizant of our present state of being. Whenever the explanation of our dualistic nature is proffered, encompassing both the part of us that undergoes experimental cognition and emotive states, as well as the part that observes this process, individuals tend to gravitate towards analysis rather than embracing their existential essence. Can you fathom your existence without the compulsion for contemplation? If such a faculty is attainable, then it becomes manifest that the analytical capacity need not serve as a means to justify one's existence. Are you capable of adopting an indifferent stance towards the thoughts that emerge within your consciousness? Earlier in this discourse, I alluded to the importance of being cognizant of one's thinking. Presently, I refer to unintentional thoughts that permeate one's conscious perception. Can you cultivate an awareness of your thinking process? This entails the recognition of a facet within oneself that is cognizant of the thought process, juxtaposed with another facet that engages in the process of thinking. As an exercise, I invite you to procure a blank sheet of paper and transcribe all the thoughts that traverse your mind within a span of 1 minute. Please refrain from imposing a sense of coherence upon these thoughts and instead record them in their raw form as they transpire. I beseech you to convey whether you find this exercise challenging or effortless, and elucidate the reasons underlying your perception. Do you harbor the belief that all thoughts that permeate your consciousness emanate from within, a product of your own volition? Or do you surmise that a considerable portion of these thoughts materialize without your explicit consent? Do you not perceive the inherent correlation between your thoughts, whether volitional or involuntary, and the information at your disposal? This percept becomes increasingly apparent when one becomes cognizant of realities that deviate from our familiar understanding. Indeed, our thought processes are perpetually influenced by the manner in which the interpretation of reality has been inculcated within us. Once an alternative paradigm for existence is introduced and internalized through repetitive practice, it precipitates transformative changes within the neural framework and physiological apparatus. Consequently, when life is apprehended as a conduit for personal growth amid challenges, our automatic response to stressful circumstances undergoes a significant metamorphosis. Through the consistent repetition of new patterns, we can assimilate into our conscious awareness a way of life that aligns harmoniously with a state of tranquility and contentment, even amidst the vicissitudes encountered in our daily experiences. As a result, our automatic response mechanisms recalibrate, eliciting sentiments of peace and joy when faced with challenges. The lack of awareness regarding our automatic responses hampers our ability to discern the pervasive prevalence of subservience, dependency, and inherent limitations that permeate every facet of our existence. Now, let us proceed to our subsequent exercise. Building upon the preceding one, can you discern the intricate nexus between each thought that emerges in your consciousness and the accompanying emotional undercurrent? Whenever feasible, engage in these exercises at various intervals throughout the day, meticulously noting the timing of thought emergence. Attentive observation will reveal the consistent coexistence of thoughts and emotions during moments when attention is not singularly focused on a specific task. Does thought precede emotion, or is it vice versa? Perhaps they alternate as primary emergent forces. To embark upon these exercises, one must shift their focus inward, directing their attention towards the labyrinthine depths of their psyche. Even these seemingly elementary exercises possess the capacity to heighten awareness of specific emotional states within oneself. Such endeavors may prove arduous solely due to our unfamiliarity with directing attention inwardly. Consider this: when ensconced in a state of sorrow, for instance, are you capable of discerning and acknowledging the sorrow coursing through your being? In essence, a facet of oneself experiences sorrow, while another aspect, the observer, maintains awareness of this state of sorrow. Ponder a scenario in which you are about to indulge in your favored television program. Can you already sense a burgeoning pleasure within, coupled with an awareness of this pleasurable experience? Similarly, when subjected to emotional distress inflicted by another, are you able to recognize and acknowledge the emotional pain that reverberates within? The same principle applies to physical discomfort, such as a throbbing headache. These examples underscore the dualistic nature inherent within our existence. We are innately endowed with the faculty to consciously apprehend the unfolding events within us, be they emotional or physical in nature. In fact, emotions possess a corporeal aspect, as they manifest through tangible alterations within our internal organs and musculature. Given this intrinsic capacity for self-awareness, one would expect the cultivation of such ability to be an inherent aspect of our educational endeavors. Yet, those who have shaped the framework of our indoctrination consciously omit self-awareness as a fundamental cornerstone of our education. Instead, they propagate a vision of reality that neglects self-awareness. Once we apprehend the volitional nature of identifying with the observer within ourselves, we recognize our capacity to either adhere to or relinquish negative emotional states. Is this not akin to becoming psychologists of our own psyche? Indeed, mastery over our emotions necessitates not the suppression or concealment of certain emotional experiences, but rather their acknowledgement, coupled with the assumption of the observer's role within. As long as our perceived true self remains contingent solely upon thoughts dictated by authority figures, we shall perpetually grapple with emotions, rather than allowing them to communicate with us. We have been conditioned to perceive ourselves solely as members of the human race, implying that, in addition to our physical bodies and emotions, we possess a history and culture. Nevertheless, no mention has ever been made of an additional facet within us, capable of perceiving the entirety of the physical and emotional phenomena we encounter. The ability to identify with the observer within us bestows upon us the aptitude to navigate stressful situations with greater efficacy. Given that the observer exists in a perennial state of tranquility, aligning with this aspect naturally harmonizes our being with serenity itself. Throughout our upbringing and indoctrination, the deliberate exclusion of the capacity to choose peace instills the belief that our emotional states are solely influenced by external circumstances or material possessions. We come to believe that the sole means of evading the clutches of negative behavior lies in exerting force against our internal urges. However, an alternative exists, the identification with the observer, enabling us to simply disregard these urges. Our reality is a meticulously crafted construct aimed at eroding our capacity for self-awareness, as the environment in which we exist perpetuates the indoctrination imposed upon us. Consequently, the reality promulgated by these manipulators of consciousness assumes the role of the primary guiding force in our lives. These purveyors of consciousness manipulation ensure that our environment seamlessly reinforces their educational agenda. Their intentions become transparent as they strive to perpetuate mental enslavement, a reality evidenced by their disproportionate wealth and power derived from the exploitation of our ancestors in the Americas. However, should we trace our lineage further back, as is necessary, we shall uncover the ubiquity of such abuses throughout the annals of time. Commencing the study of history from the epoch when our ancestors initiated the establishment of civilizations and formulated methods for character cultivation proves immensely advantageous. However, it is worth noting that the extensive elucidation of such historical contexts lies beyond the confines of this lesson. During that era, the aristocratic class exhibited a predilection for enforced physical enslavement as the primary modus operandi to subjugate our progeny, extracting goods and services, which in turn facilitated the accumulation of unfathomable wealth and the acquisition of formidable power. With a diminishing desire among people to remain in the shackles of physical bondage, these enslavers were compelled to devise a plan that would ensure the perpetuation and augmentation of their wealth and dominion over others. From the time when physical enslavement served as the foremost source of the aristocracy's wealth and power to the present day, society, as perceived, seems to have undergone numerous transformations in human circumstances. While there have indeed been certain changes to some extent, the fundamental principles underpinning the maintenance of the aristocratic system through bondage have remained largely unaltered. The uprising and conflicts that transpired over the years coerced the enslavers to relinquish the physical shackles. However, driven by their materialistic worldview, which revolves around the accumulation of riches, they devised a system that perpetuates their insatiable greed. This system found willing participants among the less fortunate, who aspired to attain wealth and power, having grown up idolizing the aristocracy. Material possessions became a compelling incentive for submission. Even individuals endowed with genuine talents for innovative inventions that could benefit humanity were enticed to sell their achievements to the affluent and powerful. Consequently, individuals from diverse domains, including religious leaders, politicians, philosophers, lawmakers, historians, doctors, engineers, professors, artists, psychologists, and others, were persuaded to contribute their abilities to sustain the aristocracy. No sphere of human endeavor escaped the pervasive influence of the rich and powerful. Ensnared by the allure of materialism, an unsuspecting worldview emerged, fostering the subconscious implementation of caste, class, and race divisions within a hierarchical system deeply embedded in the fabric of social consciousness. For instance, in the United States, despite prevailing stereotypes against formerly enslaved individuals within the dominant culture, scientists across various disciplines manipulated pseudoscientific experiments, purportedly serving as evidence to justify social stigmatization against these individuals. Given people's propensity to rely on expert opinions as guidance for assimilating into social norms, the adoption of such mentalities appeared inherently natural. Consequently, people were easily swayed to think and behave in accordance with the agenda propagated by the aristocracy. It is of utmost importance to recognize that the architects of civilization, as corroborated by historical evidence to be expounded upon in future lectures, accorded primacy to the cultivation of virtuous character over the indulgence in material and sensory gratification. The latter all too easily compromises human dignity. Although emancipated from physical bondage, the generational adherence of formerly enslaved individuals to a subordinate social status has molded their consciousness to normalize thinking, feeling, and behaving with low self-esteem. Consequently, these learned patterns of existence are transmitted to subsequent generations. The system of indoctrination imposed by the aristocracy has become so deeply ingrained in the collective consciousness that even those individuals perceived to be in positions of power are just as mentally enslaved as the rest of society. Every individual falls under the illusion of the constructed reality. The masters of manipulation have carefully crafted a reality that redirects our attention toward their intentional targets. By diverting our focus away from recognizing our innate ability to identify with the ineffable aspect of our being that transcends control and perception, we unknowingly reside within the illusion they have meticulously constructed. By possessing the ability to captivate our attention, they hold the key to shaping our consciousness. Thus, their true power lies in their capacity to hijack our focus. One of their strategies involves impeding our ability to effectively regulate our emotions, as this serves as an incentive to divert our attention away from the observer residing within us. As emotional beings or humans, we tend to disregard the existence of that facet of ourselves that transcends thoughts and emotions. Consequently, attributing qualities to external entities can indicate emotional susceptibility to these external factors. Entertainment assumes a significant role in their agenda. When thoroughly engrossed in a dramatic film, our attention becomes wholly consumed by the intricately fabricated reality crafted by the screenwriter. In the process, we not only forget the fictional nature of the narrative but also yearn for its authenticity, particularly if a felicitous denouement is anticipated. As the scenes unfold, our emotional selves undergo the intended changes designed by the writer. Upon the conclusion of the movie, we may contemplate the overall performance and consciously experience certain emotions that may persist for a period of time. However, we remain oblivious to the duration of these lingering experiences within our subconscious and their influence on our perception of reality. Hence, it becomes apparent that entertainment is seldom designed with the purpose of revealing our true selves. Given that our indoctrination omits the mastery of the observer residing within us, we seldom pay heed to the subconscious effects of entertainment. Instead of identifying with the observer within, we automatically react when we identify with our thoughts and emotions. Erroneously, we believe that the thoughts coursing through our minds are intrinsically our own and that the emotions we experience are integral to our identity. These notions stem from the misguided belief that external events possess inherent qualities, coupled with a lack of awareness regarding the observer within as our true essence. The historical evidence unequivocally demonstrates the heinous acts committed by Spanish criminals against indigenous peoples upon their arrival in the Americas. These acts encompassed a range of abominations, including rape, forced labor, mutilation, and killings, resulting in a precipitous decline in the population of what is now known as the Dominican Republic. Estimates indicate that the population, upon the arrival of the Spaniards in 1492, reached up to 250,000 individuals. Within a mere span of 60 years, the indigenous population on the island had dwindled to a meager few hundred. Similar atrocities were inflicted upon indigenous peoples in other regions of the Americas by Spanish conquistadors. The primary impetus driving these acts was the pursuit of gold, which facilitated the accumulation of vast fortunes for these Spaniards and their benefactor, Queen Isabella, through illicit means. These egregious examples of plunder, rape, and devastation, bereft of any regard for human lives, engendered the emergence of societies populated by affluent individuals who were willing to employ any means necessary to satiate their insatiable desire for opulence and power. Similar atrocities were perpetrated against indigenous peoples in Asia, Africa, Australia, and other regions. It is a rarity to encounter indigenous individuals in positions of authority over their ancestral lands unless they represent the interests of groups who inherited wealth and power through the plunder, rape, and destruction of indigenous peoples, lands, and cultures. To uphold such enormous wealth and power, a global system was devised, with persuasion, brutality, and colonization serving as its primary components. Absolute control over education, politics, economics, entertainment, health, labor, law, religion, sex, and warfare ensured that no ideas challenging the established system could gain traction. Their biased worldview became universal, deeply ingrained in the psyche of nearly every individual worldwide. Consequently, indoctrination played a pivotal role in perpetuating their power and wealth. A hierarchical structure founded on class, caste, and ethnicity governs the collective consciousness, fostering an illusory sense of superiority among certain groups and promoting egocentric notions of superiority among the general populace. Within this entrenched hierarchy, self-proclaimed white supremacy occupies the apex of the social order. Numerous cultural values have been eradicated, replaced by those that align solely with the agenda of the ruling elite. Traditional attire, customs, and beliefs find no acceptance in this so-called civilized world. As part of their nefarious scheme, the so-called elite ensured the eradication of valuable historical facts, tampering with others, and fabricating many, thereby preventing their unwitting victims from realizing that the so-called white supremacists possess no inherent superiority. They sought to conceal the truth that our ancestors were the architects of civilization. The history we are taught conveniently overlooks the grand cities constructed by non-Caucasian peoples, which were destroyed by the forebears of the oppressors to diminish our potential and humanity through their indoctrination process. To embark on a deeper exploration of introspection and meditation, it becomes necessary to delimit the scope of historical information. I must emphasize that I harbor no animosity toward the majority of Caucasians, as they too have fallen victim to the same false narratives disseminated through various social institutions. They too have been subject to indoctrination. Eradicating indoctrination at its core proves to be an arduous undertaking. Therefore, it should not dishearten us to witness inequalities among different races or witness individuals who feel entitled to a better life. Subconsciously, we have come to accept the notion that God possesses a Caucasian appearance. The works of Michelangelo in religious sanctuaries have erroneously implanted the belief in a Caucasian God. Additionally, Easter movies have contributed to the perception of a Caucasian Christ who sacrificially atoned for our sins. The process of self-discovery is not concerned with perceived inequality among people but rather with the eradication of erroneous concepts that not only limit our potential for true self-fulfillment but also hinder our ability to transcend ourselves. The work primarily transpires within the realm of our inner being. The historical facts previously presented were intended to shed light on the reasons underlying the mind control that subjugates us, operating outside the purview of our conscious awareness. Indeed, it constitutes mind control when our decisions are influenced by the emotional conditioning that commences right from the outset of our life's journey. At this juncture, many of you are undoubtedly beginning to recognize the pivotal importance of revisiting this information. Drawing upon the example of movies mentioned earlier, we can discern how we have grown accustomed to the subtle absorption of information embedded within various narratives. The enjoyment derived from a particular show, for instance, often motivates us to seek the reoccurrence of those pleasurable emotional states. Consequently, subsequent similar events presented through movies, music, sports, or any form of entertainment that we have enjoyed are likely to shape our behavior. Our indoctrination does not incorporate introspection as a component of the lessons gleaned from these moments of amusement. Consequently, biases that divide us become ingrained in our behavior. Social class divisions, religious differences, ethnic disparities, gender distinctions, and more become automatic responses. Through profound self-awareness, we can ascertain that the part of ourselves that remains unaffected by the physical or emotional experiences we undergo maintains a sense of knowing. This aspect of ourselves simply exists, embodying tranquility and perpetually observing our experiences. Deliberately, this document has omitted the acknowledgement of our dual nature as beings. It is crucial to recognize that even those who imparted knowledge to us were unaware of this reality, as I have just explicated. They, too, fall victim to this conditioning, just like the rest of us. To identify with our true selves, we need only to exist without the compulsion to rationalize. By simply being, without excessive engagement in cognitive processes, we can apprehend that the emotions we experience and the thoughts that arise can be disregarded as non-essential components of our being. Emotions and thoughts can only ensnare us if we actively participate in them. Thus, states of depression, anxiety, or fear, for example, are merely emotional experiences that we can choose not to identify with or dismiss. This implies that we possess the choice to either remain ensnared in the clutches of emotion or identify with our true selves, which can observe and remain aware of emotions without being swayed by them. The habit of identifying with emotions and thoughts is what makes the identification with our true selves seem nearly impossible to attain. In future sessions, we will delve deeper into the concept of the true self. However, for now, it is imperative to recognize that all our limitations and inner conflicts arise from identifying with the part of ourselves that thinks and experiences emotions. Through the practice of meditation, we can transform our automatic negative emotional responses to challenging situations into peaceful responses. In other words, serenity in the face of difficulties will become an automatic, effortless state, devoid of conscious thought. This can be achieved by accessing the subconscious mind during meditation and intentionally disregarding negative responses while identifying with our true nature, which is peace. By replacing unwanted automatic responses with peaceful ones, our behavior will also undergo a transformation. We will become calmer and more attuned to our inner being. Drawing upon the aforementioned paragraphs, introspection serves as a vital tool for accessing the subconscious mind and modifying behavior. As previously mentioned, awareness of our automatic responses to situations assists in identifying the emotions we experience and understanding their emergence in specific circumstances. As we cultivate self-awareness, we realize that emotions manifest as bodily sensations that can be comfortable or uncomfortable, agreeable or disagreeable, painful or alleviating. Recognizing this dual impact of emotions on our bodies, it becomes natural for us to avoid painful or uncomfortable emotions and gravitate towards emotions that are comfortable, alleviating, and pleasant. Through repetition and indoctrination, the realities of certain individuals became our own reality. Our emotions developed pleasant responses to the values we were taught to adopt and uncomfortable automatic responses to ideas, values, objects, and groups that we were conditioned to reject. These individuals' worldviews have permeated our consciousness and shaped our being. As elucidated in previous teachings, our emotions automatically react to all experiences based on our indoctrination. Consequently, our own emotions act as invisible barriers that restrict exploration beyond the boundaries instilled within us. Changing these responses to peaceful ones necessitates introspective effort. Television, for instance, has played a significant role in manipulating our consciousness. Meditation serves as a valuable gift that can aid in the eradication of detrimental habits. The crux of indoctrination lies in directing our focus towards external events. As long as our attention remains externally oriented, we will never seek to comprehend the internal workings. A lack of practice in internal reflection gradually impedes our capacity to foster a better relationship with our inner selves, our subconscious. However, by recognizing the dual nature of our being, we can also comprehend that the part of ourselves that knows does not feel or think, it simply exists. This implies that this part of ourselves cannot be indoctrinated. By continuously identifying with this aspect of our being, which embodies pure existence, we can liberate ourselves from the indoctrination that seeks to confine us to a slave-like reality. This observer aspect, detached from attachment to external events or objects, embodies peace. Inner peace safeguards us from being exploited as mere objects for the benefit of others. To maintain control over our thoughts and emotions, those in positions of power must continually cater to our external interests. They recognize that by living within an illusion, our true selves remain obscured. The manipulators of consciousness employ diverse entertainment mediums and manipulative techniques to prevent us from realizing our true nature. They disseminate information in a manner that aligns with their agenda, which seeks to perpetuate our mental enslavement. By controlling our thoughts and emotions, every action we take, even if we believe it to be of our own volition, ultimately serves their interests. Mental enslavement invariably leads to physical enslavement. Although literature, music, movies, newspapers, books, and comedy could have served as therapeutic outlets for individuals, their themes primarily aim to identify with the aspect of ourselves that craves peace. It is customary to derive entertainment from recurring scenarios in which the protagonist overcomes adversity and attains wealth, love, and admiration. All forms of entertainment are designed to perpetuate the illusion constructed for us. Through music, we are taught how to love, feel, hate, and mistreat others. Belief plays a significant role in their fallacious doctrines. Once we are persuaded that anything is possible, we willingly embrace the illusion. When we become disconnected from our inner selves, we lack the ability to effectively address external matters internally. Awareness of our emotions and thoughts allows us to comprehend our present state rather than simply asserting that we are well. Discovering our true selves presents a challenge as long as we are immersed in an illusion. True happiness remains elusive until we liberate ourselves from the automatic responses molded by our consciousness. Otherwise, our existence will be predicated on someone else's notion of reality. Living through knowing represents a profound departure from living through mere belief. In forthcoming lessons, I shall expound upon the distinction between possessing knowledge of God's existence and merely holding a belief in such existence. For these self-interested individuals who have orchestrated our educational system for the purpose of mental manipulation, captivating our attention with external phenomena proves essential. They have fashioned a definition of reality that fosters the conviction that we have no alternative but to rely upon external circumstances to meet our every need. As our attention remains fixated upon the external realm, they instill within our minds values that purportedly lead to happiness. In the inaugural lecture, we examined this instance wherein programmed beliefs concerning the sources of happiness, such as acquiring a new car, possessing a house, securing a lucrative job, or attaining a college degree, were brought to the fore. Once our dependence upon external distractions and entertainments has taken root within our consciousness, the ability to be alone without craving external stimulation becomes increasingly arduous. We have grown so reliant upon perpetual entertainment that we seldom allocate time to cherish our inner selves. In fact, solitude frequently engenders a sense of punishment, as our thoughts and emotions threaten to overwhelm us. Our excessive reliance upon the external realm obstructs our capacity to effectively confront internal traumas. We become apprehensive about examining how our environment influences our emotions. This trepidation constitutes one of the methods deployed to retain control over us, even within the educational sphere. We dread failing examinations, particular subjects, or expressing ourselves in the classroom. As you advance in your studies, you will come to apprehend that you possess an inherent capacity for joy that can be activated at will, irrespective of external objects or thoughts. As you may have already discerned, within the indoctrination system that molds our enslaved mindset, words are endowed with definitions that manipulate our emotions, thus perpetuating our confinement within the contrived reality fashioned for us. Within this reality, hope is presented as our deliverance. We are indoctrinated to incessantly aspire to external acquisitions as prerequisites for happiness. Finding contentment and fulfillment within ourselves is not deemed acceptable, as though we lack the capability to generate peace and joy from within. Within the mentality of enslavement imposed upon us, words such as anxious, depressed, ashamed, and fearful are regarded as consequences of external circumstances or internal inadequacies, rather than as outcomes stemming from ascribing qualities to external situations or objects. It must be borne in mind that the value attributed to things is predicated upon the teachings we have received. Moreover, we have solidified abstract concepts in our minds that hold no pertinence to the present moment. Concepts such as ethnic pride, caste, class, religion, gender, nationality, and the like serve to divide us. Self-exploration finds no priority within these categories. Instead, they confine us within predetermined notions of what we ought to be. Once our reality aligns with these limited concepts, every decision we make will reference them. Through indoctrination, we have been instilled with concepts that shape our lives, concepts that are perpetually reinforced by our surroundings. Consequently, the perceived reality becomes normalized. Anything that deviates from our preconceived notion of reality is regarded as abnormal, strange, foreign, or other. The fear of estrangement from social groups further discourages us from exploring our true selves. Fairness plays a significant role in seducing us to remain complacent. Fear of losing employment, failing academically, experiencing solitude, lacking acceptance, failing to attain heavenly rewards, or deviating from Eurocentric norms exemplify situations in which fear assumes a pivotal role in shaping our consciousness. The indoctrination system employs diverse means to ensure that our attention remains steadfastly fixed upon their agenda. Definitions and concepts of words, symbols, and ideas are carefully insulated, thereby limiting our perception of reality to their prescribed definitions. For these definitions, concepts, or ideas to assimilate into our consciousness, they are accompanied by emotional manifestations. Consequently, whenever we encounter these definitions, concepts, or ideas, the corresponding emotions are aroused within us. We resonate with the emotional frequency to which we have been confined. Our emotions serve as invisible barriers that steer our aspirations and desires. Given that our most intimate expression of being is emotional, and that the expression of our emotions results from internalized concepts of reality, we find ourselves vulnerable to the flaws embedded within that reality. We readily succumb to imagined or fabricated scenarios that bear no relevance to our actual reality. This constitutes one of the objectives behind certain films, soap operas, music, and other forms of entertainment. While being entertained, our emotional state becomes exceedingly susceptible, thereby enabling the subtle absorption of false concepts of reality into our consciousness. These informational mediums are fashioned to shape our consciousness in accordance with the intentions of mental enslavement. The influence of societal fervor upon our emotions is so potent that, when we examine our automatic reactions during moments of collective excitement, we realize that our responses to events are practically reflexive. In previous lessons, I introduced the practice of introspection, or the mindful awareness of our automatic reactions to events. While the concept may be straightforward, our habitual focus on the external realm renders the practice of introspection or self-perception somewhat arduous. For the present, we may also refer to this practice as mindfulness. Nevertheless, authentic mindfulness transcends merely observing our individual selves, it encompasses the observer of existence as a whole. It will require the initiate to undergo a gradual process in order to recognize the omnipresence of the true self. Breaking free from the divisive concepts of reality instilled within us will necessitate considerable effort. Introspection aids us in identifying instances wherein we automatically react to stimuli, be they agents, events, or situations, whether internal or external, that elicit a response from us. It is of utmost importance to recognize that what we deem conditions for happiness are nothing more than desires fabricated within our minds, desires that we are led to believe we must relentlessly strive for in order to attain happiness. However, these automatic emotional responses stem from the indoctrination of mental enslavement. The prevailing indoctrination we have undergone fails to equip us with the capacity to respond to life's challenges with inner peace and joy. Consequently, our emotions tend to be swayed by external circumstances and material possessions. We often gravitate towards events, situations, and objects that align with our conditioned emotions, providing us with temporary internal satisfaction. However, we fail to recognize that these emotions are predetermined responses. Before we can attain the goals we believe will bring us happiness, we must endure numerous instances of unpleasant emotional experiences. While it is important to have goals, it does not necessitate enduring internal disharmony throughout the journey. Embracing each moment of life and finding appreciation therein proves more beneficial than enduring hardships solely in pursuit of a future goal. Understanding that conditional happiness keeps us in a state of hope, thereby resulting in a lack of inner fulfillment until the desired conditions materialize, holds paramount importance. As long as we remain attached to these conditions, we are unable to fully embrace the present moment. Introspection serves as a valuable tool in identifying the emotions we experience when we are hopeful. It is often observed that many individuals tolerate unpleasant circumstances while awaiting the fulfillment of their desired happiness. Consequently, their lives lack fulfillment, and hope continues to fixate them on the future, preventing them from fully enjoying the present. Through introspection and meditation, we can liberate ourselves from the illusion that fulfillment lies solely in the attainment of our hopes. Instead, we can reprogram ourselves to find joy in the present moment. One may argue that hope serves as a motivation for achieving goals. While this may hold a degree of truth, is it worthwhile to spend time in a state of hope, partially enjoying or perhaps not enjoying the present moment, as we wait for the fulfillment of our desires? What if what we hope for never comes to fruition? In such instances, our precious time would have been squandered on partial happiness or unhappiness. Re-educating individuals who have fallen victim to flawed indoctrination systems to employ hope in a manner that does not impede their present state of joy proves no easy task. For the majority, it remains inconceivable to invest in a project that may yield future benefits while simultaneously relishing the present moment. However, with practice, one can learn to say, I hope everything unfolds favorably, but let me concentrate on fully enjoying the present moment. Given the manipulation of our emotions, opting to prioritize present enjoyment will pose a challenge. It necessitates repetitive visualization to achieve this objective. Dwelling in the present bestows numerous advantages. It allows us to relish each moment without relying on hope. Finding joy in the present equips us to handle challenges more effectively, as they are an inevitable aspect of existence. It is through confronting challenges with peace and joy that we cultivate greater emotional mastery. The practice of focusing on the present moment assists in preventing our thoughts from wandering aimlessly. Every experience and occurrence unfolds in the present. By being mindful of what triggers specific emotions in the present, we can better equip ourselves to navigate those emotions through meditation. Even instances of psychic attacks manifest within the present moment. Hope serves as a mental stimulus that elicits emotional responses. Our lives are predominantly spent reactively responding to external stimuli and internal thoughts. Instructions have been implanted within our consciousness from the moment of our birth. Our indoctrination is so fundamentally flawed that we are not taught to attend to our breath, the fundamental aspect of our existence. In order to effectively practice mindfulness, it is imperative to allocate time for breathing exercises. Once we are able to assume a proper seated position and breathe correctly, we can introduce the practice of meditation. This practice can commence while we are still in the process of comprehending how certain individuals have gained dominion over our emotions. The programming with which we operate is deeply ingrained within our subconscious. Introspection empowers us to identify automatic and disharmonious responses to situations. Through meditation, we gain access to the subconscious and can modify these faulty programming patterns. The purpose of introspection lies in identifying the controlling forces behind our emotions. These forces arise from our conditioned responses to situations, words, and symbols. However, without awareness of our automatic responses, explanations concerning programming prove ineffective. Let us employ introspection to eradicate negative emotional conditioning. For instance, if you experience feelings of embarrassment in certain situations despite a lack of logical basis, introspection can aid in identifying the bodily tensions associated with these embarrassing moments. In prior lessons, we explored how our notion of a fulfilling life was imparted to us. We were not taught that joy can emanate from within. This omission was deliberate, as generating inner joy would undermine the power of those who rely on the subjugation of mentally enslaved individuals. Instead of physical chains, a system was created to fetter our minds, thereby inducing apparent voluntary submission to the will of our oppressors. Our mental faculties, such as imagination, intuition, willpower, memory, perception, and reasoning, operate in accordance with our programmed emotions. Emotions hold greater sway than logic. Behavior modification hinges upon repetition, as the current view of reality has been deeply ingrained within our subconscious through years of repetition. Hence, meditation proves indispensable in repetitively accessing the subconscious and effecting change in emotional driving forces. Words such as success and failure possess the capacity to evoke strong emotions, prompting us to automatically judge an individual's worth based on preconceived notions. However, many self-proclaimed failures experience such sentiments because they have internalized society's definition of failure. By categorizing themselves as failures, they conform to the associated limitations. Why ought we to deem someone lacking in material wealth or a university degree a failure? They need not conform to society's prescribed standards. They have the capacity to lead enriching lives on their own terms. The notion of failure is a social construct born out of a scarcity of acceptance and a divisive mindset implanted in our consciousness from an early age. Many individuals branded as failures play pivotal roles within society. Through the journey of self-discovery, we possess the agency to redefine success, thereby allowing each moment of our existence to be imbued with success, irrespective of the external conditions imposed upon us by others. It is paramount to acknowledge that indoctrination or education molds our emotions and shapes our cognitive faculties, encompassing imagination, intuition, willpower, memory, perception, and reasoning, within certain limitations. Owing to the deeply entrenched nature of our indoctrination, we are susceptible to external influences. As expounded upon previously, words carry potent emotional energy by virtue of our internalized definitions. Our educational system misguides us into perceiving words and situations as possessing inherent qualities, instead of recognizing our capacity to interpret them judiciously. This perpetuates the state of mental enslavement. Further elucidations and meditation practices shall be offered in the forthcoming lesson. Your comprehension of your true self ought to have diverged significantly from your prior convictions. Engaging revelations and disciplined exercises lie in store for those who nurture patience. I express my gratitude.